My name is Amanda Dunsmore and I am Senior Curator, International Decorative Arts and Antiquities. Today I will be discussing Art Nouveau, a decorative style that swept across Europe, the United States and Australia from the late 1880s until the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, through decorative artworks in the NGV Collection. In recent years, a collecting priority for the Decorative Arts Department has been the period of the late 19th century through to the first years of the 20th century, a rich period of artistic ferment that chronicles the beginnings of modernism. This period is defined by the Art Nouveau style that emerged in France and Belgium during the late 1880s, and its Central European counterpart, Jugendstil, or youth style, which emerged around the turn of the 20th century in the German-speaking world. The gallery has acquired a number of significant works by leading designers from this period, which illustrate the radical changes that took place in artistic thinking and the profound influence that Japanese art had on artists and designers at the time. The Art Nouveau style is widely recognised as the beginnings of modernism, due to its self-conscious break with European design styles of the past. Art Nouveau rejected the historicism of much 19th century design and sought to create a modern style that embraced all aspects of life. Growing out of the European arts and crafts movements, it drew upon a range of sources for inspiration, in particular the art of Japan and its reverence for the natural world. The use of sinuous, stylised plant forms was characteristic of the Art Nouveau style in France and Belgium, whereas these curvilinear elements were interpreted with a more formal rectilinear geometry in the Jugendstil design of Vienna, Hungary, and centres across Germany. Paul Follot was a leading Parisian designer of objects, furniture, and interiors during the first decades of the 20th century. His silver-plated tea and coffee service, manufactured by the German metalware firm F.W. Quist, has become one of the most celebrated designs of the Art Nouveau style. The shapes of the service, with radial lines splaying out from the spouts and handles and terminating in scalloped-shaped profiles at their rims and bases, evoke aquatic forms such as fish fins or shells. Equally, the forms bear a close resemblance to fennel bulbs. The tray features similarly abstracted plant-like motifs, with the radial lines of the handles resolving into a formal cluster of blossoms in the lower centre of the tray. Deeply illustrative of the Art Nouveau style, this earthenware vase of around 1903 by the sculptor Ernest Bussière represents a gourd fruit in the later stages of decay. Highly organic in form, the vase reveals Bussière's profound interest in nature. Such fascination for nature was one of the key inspirations of the Art Nouveau style, of which Bussière was a major exponent in the ceramic medium. The vase is glazed in a range of subtle naturalistic tones that are highlighted by an iridescent mauve glaze down the throat of the vase. Bussière was renowned for his soft, unctuous glazes, their subtle velvety sheen giving the gourd an almost furry appearance to its surface. The overtly organic form of this gooseneck vase of around 1900, with its tendril-like elongated neck, takes its inspiration from Persian rosewater sprinklers of the 16th century. A number of leading Art Nouveau designers, including Christopher Dresser and Louis Comfort Tiffany, produced versions of this design, and the Lutz Witwer manufactory specialised in producing iridescent, organic-inspired glass vases like this one around the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries. The glassworks was recognised for its sophisticated forms and rich, iridised colour schemes. During the early 20th century, the firm's designers were particularly influenced by their contact with the progressive Viennese secession artists, including Josef Hoffmann, Koloman Moser, and those associated with the Wiener Werkstätte. Around the turn of the century in Vienna, Austrian artist Koloman Moser was emerging as a pioneer of modern design. A founding member of the Vienna secession, a radical group of young artists who split off in protest from the academic art scene, Moser trained in painting and later graphic design, keen to pursue his interest in the decorative arts and to develop a more hands-on approach to design. In 1900, he produced Flächenschmuck, or surface decoration, which was a compendium of flat pattern designs intended as a reference for all areas of craft production. Moser's cloth-bound portfolio of 30 loose colour lithograph plates comprises repeat pattern motifs of plant, animal and human forms. The origins of Moser's design work owed much to Japanese woodblock printing and katagami, or textile dyeing stencils. These mesmerising flat pattern designs by Moser from the early years of his career represent some of his most free-thinking, conceptual and exciting artistic expressions. Jutta Seeker was one of Colum and Moser's students, and in 1901 to 1902, the pair collaborated on a tea and coffee service. Seeker's bold and original ceramic decorations in the coffee service of 1901 to 02 show the clear influence of Japanese graphic design, especially textile stencils or katagami. Joseph Maria Olbrich was a leading Austrian architect and designer and co-founder of the Vienna Secession, working in progressive design circles in Austria and Germany at the turn of the 20th century. He was the architect for the iconic Secession building, which still stands in central Vienna today. In 1899, Ernst Ludwig, Grand Duke of Hesse, enticed Olbrich to move to his capital of Darmstadt, just south of Frankfurt, to become a member of the newly founded Darmstadt Artists' Colony. Olbrich was one of a number of important progressive artists and designers, including Peter Behrens and Hans Christiansen, who worked at the colony, creating houses and interiors in a modern Jugendstil style. This pair of candlesticks in polished pewter were designed by Olbrich in 1901 during his time at Darmstadt. The distinctive formal language of these candlesticks led to them becoming one of the most iconic representatives of the so-called Darmstadt style. Finally, this rare Australian Art Nouveau vase has recently entered the NGV Collection. The vase is a distinctive example by the Sydney-based ceramic decorator Elsa Josephson. It is deftly painted with a highly stylised design of black cats playing among bulrushes and taunting a mouse in the process. Using a reduced palette of greens and black, the design reveals influences from Japanese art, as seen in the graphic depiction of the cats through flat blocks of colour that are boldly intersected by the reeds. Japanese art was a key influence on Australian artists of the early 20th century, including several female printmakers and illustrators. And the distinctive characteristics of the Japanese woodblock tradition can be seen in the decoration on this vase, which is a striking, bold example of Art Nouveau design.